me start. My name is Larry Dannenberg. I'm the founder of College Solutions. We're going to talk about the future of college and building resilient students today. There's definitely a lot of challenges when a college environment exists as a standard college environment, but in today's ever-changing environment, it's even more important to have resilient students who can deal with the self-advocacy and time management and flexibility and persistence that's needed. So let me introduce our panelists today. We have Margaret Beaudenay, who is an ex-admissions officer from University of Virginia, a ex-professional speechwriter. Currently, she is the mother of 5 3.5-year-olds, and she also runs College Solutions in the Southeast. In addition, we have Angela Molly, who is a licensed professional educator and a school counselor out of Illinois. For the past 4 years, she has served as an executive function coach and supervisor and outreach coordinator for Beyond BookSmart, based in Chicago. We also have Mary Minnick, who's a certified educator in Massachusetts with over a decade experience with teaching in a variety of classroom settings. Mary has worked for Beyond BookSmart for 4 years as an executive function coach and outreach coordinator in the New England area. And with that, I will turn it over to Mary and Angela.
Thank you, Larry. First, we're going to discuss what skills your teen will need to focus on in high school that will lead them to be successful in college and in the workforce. We'll then discuss the importance of having a support system and provide you with some helpful tools that you can discuss with your students at home. As we're talking, please write down any questions you may have. You can use the Q&A feature that Larry mentioned or the chat, and we will try to address those at the end of the webinar. As a reminder, Larry will be sending you the PDF of these slides in a follow-up email for your reference. I'm going to hand it over to you now, Angela.
Thanks, Mary. So I am going to just kind of give you a little bit of an overview of our self-management skills and how those relate to academics. So when a teacher assigns something in class, that we can think about is the what. What is it that I need to do? So for example, it's, okay, I need to write a 5-paragraph essay, or I need to work on this math worksheet. Our executive function skills are the how. How am I going to get this done? And how will I get it done efficiently and effectively? Our next slide is going to have a lot of information on it, so you can spend more time reviewing it in detail when you get the PDF of the presentation, but it's a really nice breakdown of the essential skills that students will need to be ready for college. So when students are given an assignment, they use their executive functioning skills to do things like plan and manage their time, regulate their emotions, think flexibly, advocate for their needs, and know who they are as a learner. So as they're working, right, they need to be able to manage that time, monitor their effort, adapt to those changing circumstances, and manage their emotions so that they can access those critical skills that they need to get the job done. All of this is going to happen within the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and this is a part of the brain that's still developing until about the mid-20s. So these skills are definitely a work in progress for our teens. I'm going to hand it back over to Mary now, who's going to talk a little bit about how our emotions can impact that prefrontal cortex and our ability to access the EF skills. Mary, go ahead.
Thanks, Angela. So being in a good mindset is so important. It is easy to allow emotions and stress to take over. You might notice that when you're stressed or tired, it takes much longer to get even simple tasks done. So let me give you a visual. If you can all put your hand up and close it into a fist in front of you, this will provide a little picture of our brain. Okay, the front of our brain is where the prefrontal cortex lies. It's where our executive function skills are, the skills that help us get our work done effectively and efficiently. If we open our fist, this is where our amygdala lies, and that's in charge of our fight or flight response. When we're stressed, tired, or anxious, this part of the brain takes over, and that's kind of where we flip our lid, if you've heard that expression. Our amygdala has taken over, and we no longer can access all those executive function skills to get things done, let alone the content that we might need to write a paper. So we need to calm that amygdala down and de-stress. And one way that we do that is called 5-finger breathing. My kids actually know it quite well. So what you're going to do is you hold your hand up just for demonstration, and you're going to breathe in and breathe out. And follow your fingers, breathing in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. And you can do this a few times. You can do it underneath the table. I could be doing right now as I'm presenting, but it's a good tool to kind of get you to calm that amygdala down a little bit. One of the most important skills that your teen needs as well is self-advocacy. So where do I go when I don't know what to do? This next tool is created to do just that. Let me just say this though, before I share it with you, that delivery is key. Your teen is going to be much more willing to listen to you share some of these tools with them if you share some of your own struggles. How are you managing during these stressful times? What have you had to put in place now that you're working from home and have the added stress of educating your student? I've had to be quite honest with my own kids as they've seen me being pulled in many different directions. And as I'm transparent with them, they're learning that they aren't the only ones struggling, and it levels the playing field a little bit. It provides a context for the conversations of how we might need to create different routines or have some support systems in place if mom and dad aren't available to help them immediately. So by helping your teen develop a support hierarchy before the stress of getting stuck hits them, you can equip them to easily act upon their resources and thus build their self-advocacy skills. So as you discuss this with your teen, they might want to create a support hierarchy for each subject if that's appropriate. So if they get stuck, if you take a look at this slide at the very top, they're in that stuck position, they might want to figure out, well, if it's in English, my friend Anna's really good at English. I'm going to ask her first. And if she's not available, then I can go talk to Miss Swanson, my teacher, or my skills teacher, Mr. Perez. If it's math, well, Keith's really good at math. I'm going to go talk to him. And then if he's not available, I'm going to go talk to Miranda and then maybe my teacher. Okay. So they're going to try to figure out who is the best person, who's the best fit here, and get that hierarchy in place. But again, I can't stress enough how important it is to determine when and how to discuss some of these tools with your teen. In order for them to have any kind of buy-in, they need to know that you're not trying to control what they do or how they do it. Offering support and allowing them to make mistakes along the way is part of them becoming more self-aware and what works, what doesn't work for them. The magic isn't in the tool itself, but finding the tool that specifically works for them. Do any of you have any daily to-do lists that seem to just keep getting longer as the days go by? Maybe I'm the only one. But if we have too much on our plate and can't cross it all off, we might feel really defeated instead of accomplished at the end of the day. One solution is to determine your one big thing for the day. This is the one thing that you can do that will help you feel more accomplished. This is an app specific for the iPhone, but my husband actually uses the same concept just by writing on a sticky note what his one big thing is and putting it on the computer. You can share it with someone for accountability over text or a shared calendar. Even better, you can set your one big thing the night before so that you're starting your day knowing what you need to do and will be less likely to procrastinate when getting started. Maybe you and your team could collaborate and share each of your one big things as a way to kind of model that strategy for them. Once you know what you want to get done, you need to now have a plan of how to get it done. So parents, just as you're juggling your own work, maintaining a household, caring for your kids, your students are managing multiple subjects every day and throughout the week. So breaking them down into a daily, weekly homework plan is super important to keep track of all that information and complete all of those assignments. Here are 3 simple steps to help them have a visual of what they want to accomplish. So first off, the task. What do you need to do? And writing all those different things down. How long would those tasks take? And then determine the specific when you're going to get it done. And being specific is really important because a lot of us want to just say later. You're going to run out of laters after a while. You might also consider showing them your own plans for the day and how you're going to use this to help keep you on track. Do you write everything down in a planner? Do you use Google Calendar to keep track of your day? Was it difficult for you to come up with your own system for planning out your day? And if you share that with your teen, that you struggle to complete tasks without having a written plan, it normalizes those difficulties that they may have when it comes to planning out their own work. There are several ways to set up homework plans. So students should use whatever method is going to really feed off of their strengths. If they like to write things down, they can use a paper chart or a paper planner. And digital organizers also work. If they're more tech savvy, they can use Google Calendar or My Homework. Your turn, Angela, for some more tools.
Thanks, Mary. All right, this is one of my favorites. So now that we have a written plan, maybe your teen is just the kind of kid who just, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to get started on it, right? How many parents have heard this? 5-minute goals are a great way to break things up and get over that dread of getting started on something. This works well for teens who are anxious as well as teens who are bored with their work. So if you have a kid who's more on the anxious side and they look at those multi-step directions and they just don't know where to start, the goal here is for them to just initiate something. Doesn't have to be perfect. But what you want to do is just encourage them, set a timer for 5 minutes and just say, hey, no pressure. See what you can get done in those 5 minutes. Often they just need to get over, right, that initial feeling of dread of just getting started. And that might be enough for them to persist with the work. Once they get started and they reach that 5 minutes, they're either going to naturally keep going, or they might be at a point where it's like, oh, I've done 5 minutes and I want to be done. In that case, maybe then they can bargain with themselves. So, okay, 5 minutes wasn't so bad. Maybe I can do 10 minutes. I do this all the time when I'm running. By the way, if I run for 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, I can go for 15 more, right? It works the same concept for adults too. If you have a teen who's kind of the opposite of that and they feel like they're bored, they might be able to handle a little bit more of a challenge. So it might be in those 5 minutes, maybe I'm going to get 3 out of my 10 math problems done. Sometimes they need that adrenaline rush and the deadline kind of looming over them to get started and keep going. As I mentioned with my running, 5-minute goals are also great for us parents. If you are someone who tends to avoid a particular task, such as the dishes that have been piling up in the sink all morning, set a 5-minute timer and work alongside your teen to support each other and hold one another accountable. Again, this normalizes the struggle that we all face when we're trying to get started on non-preferred tasks. And if you can model how you use this tool, you're helping your team build that muscle that they need to be independent. Okay. Can we go to the next? All right. So once we've gotten started, we have our groove going. At some point, we're going to need to take a break to kind of rest our brain and maintain that productivity. I know a lot of times people will avoid starting tasks for fear of getting interrupted. I am definitely guilty of this. I will wait as long as possible if I know I have something that's going to interrupt my work. So if our focus is broken either due to a planned break or due to an interruption, like the constant doorbell ringing we get with all of our probably increased Amazon deliveries, it'll take a long time for us to get back and regain that same level of focus when we sit back down. And so that's where a simple tool like Next Steps can kind of come in, save the day and save our time. So with Next Steps, you just write down where you need to pick back up when you sit back down to work. So as you can see on the slide here, our student needs to start reading chapter 8 biology at 1 o'clock. So they know when they sit down at their desk or wherever their workspace is, this is exactly what I'm going to do. It's very clear. All you need to use Next Steps is a paper and a pencil, or even a Post-it works. This is also something that works in a digital world. Most computers and laptops will have sticky note apps that can work in place of those paper Post-its. If students are using Google Classroom and Google Docs to complete daily assignments, there's a nice little comment feature embedded in the Google Docs where they can just add a comment to the side of their document that identifies where they need to pick back up. Okay, so now we're going to discuss some of those pesky distractions that we all struggle with. One of the biggest challenges that parents report is helping kids manage distractions, particularly the technology-based ones, especially now, right, that e-learning is happening in most households. Kids are on screens for a good portion of the day. So the tools that we're going to discuss today are going to be helpful in managing those distractions. Again, it might be helpful to share with your teen what your distractions are. For me, hello Amazon, hello Pinterest, right? That is what I will often find myself gravitating towards when I'm trying to avoid some work. And then share with them how you avoid going onto those websites and focusing on the work that you're trying to do. The goal here is to help the kids build independence by modeling those behaviors that you want to see instead of automatically putting parental limits on everything without their input. Now, some teens are resistant to using tools to manage their distractions because it is so much more fun to play video games, watch funny videos on YouTube or TikTok, or just become kind of enveloped in the subreddits on their favorite topics. In this case, you might try to challenge them to try and experiment to just see how these tools can help them better manage their time and boost their productivity. So one thing might be to just kind of, let's set a timer for 20 minutes, collect some data, just get to work. See how productive you are. And then once that time is up and you have your data, then the next experiment will be, now let's set the 20-minute timer, but this time let's try an app blocker or a website blocker and see if we can't increase that productivity. That data is there, it can help them actually see how much time those apps are using up of their valuable time. So next we're gonna go into some specific tools that can help manage these distractions. So we have some apps like Forest or Freedom that will create penalties for being on your phone and can lock you out of certain apps. So these might be ideal if you have a teen that can't stay off of TikTok long enough to log into their classroom portal. The Freedom, and then there's another one called Cold Turkey that can also be used on a computer to block access to some websites or all websites if your student is the kind of person who will click just about anything to avoid doing work. An added bonus with a lot of these is you can sometimes schedule them to automatically turn on at a set time and for a set amount of time. So it can go, on at Monday at 2 o'clock and it'll turn off at 3 o'clock. You can set those parameters up before they even sit down to work. Some will even redirect the website. So if you have your son, Johnny should be studying on Quizlet for a Spanish quiz, but instead he wants to hop on over to Reddit to read up on his favorite topics. If he types in reddit.com or clicks on his bookmark link, it'll automatically redirect to something that he should be doing, i.e. studying on Quizlet, instead of reading those subs. Okay. So the last step here, while we have shared some tools today that can be useful for many students and adults, it's important that we take the time to assess whether or not we are using the right tools for the job and whether or not those are working with our particular strengths. This process of self-monitoring is one of those important executive function skills that we refer to as metacognition. When we're coaching students, we frequently ask our clients to reflect on what they've been using and how it's working for them so they can make personalized adjustments that they need to be successful. This helps build some resiliency and helps them realize it's okay to try something new. The first tool that they try might not be the best tool, or maybe there's just pieces of the tool that work and they just need to make it more personal to their specific needs. So as our teens become more familiar with reflecting on what they're doing, they're growing in their independence and they'll feel more confident to make changes that are necessary. Okay, so Mary, handing it back off to you as we wrap up.
Awesome, thanks Angela. So as evidence mounts that work pays off, teens will be more motivated. Success is the best motivator of all, and it's intrinsically satisfying. We just need to get to that success by finding the way that works for us. We hope that these tools and strategies we share today will be helpful in guiding your teens towards independence. Building these skills takes time, and with continued practice and reflection, your teen will be able to identify the tools that they need to support their executive function skills so they can be successful in college and beyond. This brings us to our Q&A, Larry. It's all yours.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I think this was very helpful. I wish I had it when my kids were teens. But I think this can help adults as well as college students. So this is life lessons. So we have a couple different questions. One is, my daughter tells me each week, I've got this, don't worry about it. But then come Sunday night, she seems to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning to get her work done. This parent wants to know, how can they help her?
I'll jump in on this one first. There's a few different things I think that could be going on in this situation. My sense is that there's some sort of underlying fear, either related to the work itself or the perceived effort that's needed to do the work. So, is your daughter overwhelmed because it seems like there's too much all at once, when in reality, it might just be a bunch of little things that just kind of feel like too much. So maybe she needs help chunking out the work. I see this with like a pile of laundry. If I look at a pile of laundry, it's like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. It's going to take me forever to fold. But as soon as I separate it into, okay, here's the socks, here's the pants, here's the shirts, I have 3 mini piles of things to fold that don't seem so overwhelming. So in this case, maybe breaking the work up is something that she needs help with. You might also kind of gently ask, how is it working for you? How do you feel about the fact that you're up until 4 a.m. on Sunday night doing this work? Is it making you feel good, or is it draining all your energy? Because if it's draining all of her energy and not helping her feel better, then she probably just needs some tools to help break that work up a little bit better.
So we've got another question, and that is, how do colleges help students learn some of these skills when they're in college? Angela, do you want to answer that, or would you like me to answer it?
My sense is they expect you to be able to have the skills day one. A lot of college students that I've worked with specifically, like if I can start with them when they're in that transition between senior year and the freshman year of college, I did this with a student last year. As I brought up a syllabus that I had kept from one of my classes, and I asked them to plot it out on a calendar to figure out how we break things up, because day one they give you the syllabus and they just kind of, I think, expect you to know what to do with it. So if you have a syllabus or something that they can plan out on a calendar, just go through with them. Now, this is not going to be true of every college professor, but I think, when you get to college, you're an adult and you realize that, okay, you should kind of have some of these skills in place. They are still developing. So again, it's not a one size fits all, but I think it might be the general expectation.
So I think it depends on the college you're going to.
Yeah.
Some professors don't expect students to have all these skills. These are skills that colleges would like you to have. I think some colleges have an expectation you're coming in with these. Others will go ahead and have a academic support center that will help students build this out. Some have very strong support for this. High Point, Curry College, for example, are 2 places that have, for an added cost, support for students. So there are a number of colleges around the country. One of the things that parents need to look at and students need to look at is what type of support there is, because most students need some level of support in college, be it writing support or time management skills. Usually there's time management courses that are offered, short little courses that kids can take. But the number one reason students fail out of college is because they haven't developed these skills. So here we have another question. Executive function assessments. Is that something that students should be taking? If so, at what age should they take it? Angela?
I can just say real quick, we have a little quiz that you can take on our website that can kind of help give you a basic understanding of whether executive function is a weakness for you. We don't offer a specific assessment, for sure, not as comprehensive as a neuropsychologist would. So that's where you're going to be able to find much more comprehensive kind of evaluation of whether you're struggling with in those areas or not. But we do have a quiz that I believe is on our website. Is that right, Angela?
Yeah, I think it should be on our website. Yeah.
So this is a question that I get from a lot of parents. My child spends way too much time playing video games and does the bare minimum for schoolwork. What can I do? I don't have a solution for that. I'm hoping the two of you do.
I can give you a few thoughts, and then Angela, feel free to chime in. This is something that we deal with in my house for sure. I think in light of this current crisis, it's easy to think about just all the things that need to get done and feeling rushed from the minute you wake up in the morning, but also understanding that our teens are struggling just like we are and needing a way to escape a little bit. So kind of helping them understand a little bit, why are they migrating toward the video games? What is it that we need to do to maybe lower expectations a little bit, just because we are in this pandemic that is not a normal situation to be in. So having a real honest conversation with them of, I know you want to play video games, we also want you to get your work done, and kind of having a more collaborative approach to figure out what might be the best times in the day for them to take a break, play some video games, but also have a plan in action of when to get their work done as well. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Angela?
Yeah, no, I think that was a really good overview. And you know, if we're dealing with teens here, it's one of those things, right? We want them to kind of work towards making that conscious decision on their own. Like with me, with my 10-year-old, I put the limits on because he's 10, right? So helping them, maybe going back to that experiment, trying, you know, what does it look like when we can avoid playing the video games, or saving that for a more appropriate time instead of using it as a way to avoid our work. So having a conversation around that, and then working together to set up what are the parameters going to look like around this, I think would be helpful.
So this next question is one that I've heard from high school students and also from college students. Usually parents will say, my child won't go see their teacher. Any ideas how I can get them to do it? The teacher has office hours, but the student isn't willing to see the teacher. In college, particularly large colleges, if there's 200 kids in your class, the professor is expecting you to come see them during office hours. We've actually had some professors as clients who have said that this online teaching has had the benefit of they're seeing more students in office hours than they were before. But how can a parent help their child learn to ask for help?
That's so important. I used to talk about this with my students all the time. I don't know if we have a slide that talks about the bank account and depositing our bank account, but the idea being that you really want to deposit good things in that bank account, in that relationship with your teacher, and helping the student understand that this is going to help them build that rapport. It's going to help them kind of have a good reason to go back and ask for a recommendation for college, and help them understand what office hours even mean, because I think a lot of my students didn't know what that even meant, and helping them know you might not have a specific question. You might just kind of go in and say, what is this about? What am I here for? And giving the teacher the opportunity to either lay out the assignments that they're going to be posting for that week. I know that's what my kids are doing right now, is that's what the office hours are for. And so helping your student kind of go to those office hours to just see what it's about and understand it's not scary. And if they might think of a question that they have later on in those office hours, or even someone else might ask a question that they had, but they were too scared to ask. But you know, I've had to sit with my children are younger, but that's really helped my daughter, just kind of sitting in there and being in that same room, because it can be anxiety provoking for some.
Yes, I think a lot of students are scared of the teacher. They're scared of asking for help. But what's scary is not doing as well as you can do. And if you can review with a teacher the work that needs to get done in the next week, make sure you're doing the right things, you're studying on the right topics, you're likely to get a better grade and the teacher will be less scary and you're more likely to come back again. So
Yeah,
I think that answers
would
all-
add to that.
Mhm.
I wanted to add one thing to that question though. Sometimes I think students, right, they either don't ask because they are afraid, but sometimes they also don't know what they need help with. So in that sense, it might be kind of looking at the subject material and then figuring out what they know and what they don't know, and looking at what kind of questions can I form around this stuff that I don't know, and bringing that so that they're prepared in going to their meeting with the teacher, and then they know specifically what they need help with. Because I think if they just go to office hours and they're like, I don't get it, and then it's sort of like they're not coming away with anything because they're not even sure what they're asking for help with.
So thank you very much, Mary and Angela and Margaret. This video will be on our website tomorrow, as well the slides for this. So thank you again. And next week, we'll be talking about how to leverage your summer for doing things you enjoy, but colleges would also value. So thank you again all, and hope you tune in next week.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Margaret.